Let's start with chapter number 1 revision with the summary book. Okay, so why GST have come in India? Are there any deficiencies in the earlier law system? Yes, there were deficiencies. What? There were cascading of taxes, that is levy of non-vettable CST and inclusion of CST for imposing VAT. Then there was no SAN VAT after the manufacturing state. After the manufacturer, there was no SAN VAT. Then there was non-integration of VAT and service tax. Then there was double taxation. Few transactions were considered both as goods as well as services, like software, like restaurant service I have told you. Then there are non-inclusion of several local levies such as luxury tax, entertainment tax in VAT, also in state level also. Now GST have come in our country. How GST has come in our country? On what concepts GST has come in our country? So GST has come in value added concept. It is providing continuous chain of credit with the burden to the final consumer only. Now if either you supply goods or you supply service, the tax which is levied is goods and service tax. There is schedule 2 which clearly defines discrimination between what is goods and what is service. Is it clear? GST is a destination based tax. What do you mean by destination based tax? The tax will accrue to the tax authority which has jurisdiction over the place of supply. Okay, the consuming state. The revenue will be shared with the consuming state. Okay, now GST has come in India in dual model. That means what? The center and state both has concurrently with levy GST on supply of goods or services. So if the transaction is interstate, which tax is levied? IGST. In case of interstate, IGST. In case of intrastate, CGST plus SGST. In case of intra-union territory, CGST plus UTGST. Is it clear? Yes, at center level, what taxes are subsumed? CS. That means central excise duty, additional excise duty, central sales tax, additional custom duty, central surcharges and service tax. This is the memory technique. CS. Don't write CS in the exam. You have to write full form. Okay. So CS is the memory technique of what taxes are subsumed in the central level, what taxes are subsumed at the state level. What is the memory technique? PS Love is the memory technique, where P stands for, S stands for, L stands for luxury tax on lottery, betting and gambling, O stands for octroi and entry tax, and V stands for VAT. V stands for VAT. So purchase tax, state surcharges, luxury tax on lottery, betting and gambling, octroi and VAT and sales tax. These are the taxes which are subsumed at what? State level. These taxes have subsumed in GST, and then GST has come. Because the government has subsumed these taxes, the government said we need share. That's why in India, due to the federal structure, which tax has come in dual model, GST has come. That means center and state both has the power to levy taxes. Both have the power to levy GST. Now what all taxes have come? CGST Act 2017 for levying CGST. Then IGST Act 2017 for levying IGST in case of interstate transaction. Then SGST. Why SGST has come? For 29 states and 3 union territories. What is the memory technique? DJP. Delhi, Jammu, Kashmir, Pondicherry. Delhi, Jammu, Kashmir, Pondicherry. If we are supplying Delhi to Delhi, which tax is levied? CGST plus SGST. Jammu Kashmir to Jammu Kashmir, CGST plus SGST. Jammu Kashmir to Mumbai, IGST. Got it? Yes, then there are all dash DC. All dash is DC is what? Memory technique for what all union territories are. Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Ladakh, Dadra Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu and Chandigarh. All dash DC. When there is any intra-union territory supply in these union territory, what is the tax? CGST plus UTGST. But inter-union territory always IGST. You got it? Now there is one tax, GST compensation cess. Do you remember? For levying GST compensation cess, which act has come? GST Compensation Act 2017. Sometimes they can ask you short note on this. So what is this? On what it has come? On luxurious goods and sin goods like motor vehicle, pan masala, tobacco products, okay? And why it is levied? To compensate the state which may have what suffered loss due to implementation of GST. Is it very clear? Very good. Which is the first country to levy GST? France in the year 1954. Then 160 countries have implemented GST. And then Dr. Kelkar task force has recommended GST in our country. In our country, dual GST has been implemented from which date? 1st of July 2017. In Jammu and Kashmir from which date? 8th July 2017. Very good. I am highly impressed. Are there any benefits of GST to the country? Yes, definitely ma'am. There are so many benefits. Okay. There are benefits to economy. That is creation of unified national market ma'am. Then boost to Make in India initiative. Then enhance investment and employment. Is there any simplified tax structure now? Yes, the tax structure has simplified to a greater extent. What is that? Ease of doing business, certainty in tax administration. Are the compliances easy now? Yes. There is automatic procedure and there is greater use of IT. So ma'am, definitely there is easy tax compliance now. And there are advantages to trade and industry also. There are benefits to industry. There are mitigating ill effects of cascading. And there are benefits to small entrepreneurs and what traders as well. So before implementing any law in the country, what we have studied, see I am getting very fast. Why? Because we are revising it for the third time. So I am pretty sure you all must be remembering it. Why we are revising it again and again? So that you remember it very well. So now, Constitution, what happened? Are there any Constitution needs amendment for introduction of GST? Yes, few articles have been introduced in the Constitution for levy of GST. Earlier also there was one 7 schedule to Article 246. This could be asked in exam. This is a very important question. What is 7 schedule? What are the lists defined in 7 schedule? So how many lists are there? 3. List 1 is called as union list. What is the in union list? It contains the matters in respect of which central government has the exclusive power to make law. Exclusive power to make law. Then there is list 2 which is called as a state list. It enumerates the matter in respect of which state government has the exclusive power to make law. And then there is a concurrent list. It contains the matters in respect of which center as well as state both have the power to make law. So if they'll ask you what are the 3 lists contained in 7 schedule, you have to write these 3 lists. List 1, 2 and 3. List 1 is union list, list 2 is state list, list 3 is concurrent list. Very clear? Okay, now on the following products, what taxes are levied? This is a very favorite question of institute. On alcohol, is GST levied? No ma'am, not at all. It is out from levy section 9 only. We know it very well. Okay. So on alcohol, which tax is levied? In case of its manufacturing, state excise. In case of its sale, in case of intrastate sale, VAT. In case of interstate sale, CST. Then PHMNA items. What is PHMA? MNA. Petroleum crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas and aviation turbine fuel. On its manufacturing, central excise. On its sale, VAT or CST, as the case may be, VAT or CST. In case of intrastate, VAT. In case of interstate, CST. Is this clear? And then there are tobacco and tobacco products. On its manufacturing, on its sale, GST. Clear? And there is one more product, opium and all those things, drugs. On its manufacturing, state excise. On its sale, GST. Are you very clear with this? Now there is one article. Article what here? Two articles we will study. One is 246A. 246A has been introduced for implementation of GST. What does 246A says? 246A says Parliament as well as legislature of any state have the power to make law with respect to goods and service tax. Now both government has to come together to make law for GST because it is dual GST. So what did they said? They said ki okay. Parliament and state legislature both have power to make law with respect to GST, and Parliament has exclusive law with regard to interstate. With regard to interstate, who is the exclusive power? Parliament. And then last in this chapter, 279A. What does 279A says? GST Council, ma'am, GST Council. President is empowered to constitute GST Council. That is a joint forum of state as well as center. Okay, where what did they said? Who would be the chairperson of this Union Finance Minister would be the chairperson. Who will be the member? Union Minister in charge of Revenue or Finance will be its member, and then Minister of charge of Finance or Taxation or any other minister nominated would be its member. Then what did they said? What is the role of GST Council? They would make recommendation for different things. They will make the recommendation like what tax surcharge is to be subsumed in GST, what goods and services may be exempt from GST, what are the principles that will govern place of supply, what will be the threshold limit for exemption from GST, the special category with reference to special category states, what all would be the provision. That means what would be the like threshold limit and all with respect to, for example, composition scheme, registration and all. Who is going to tell all these? The GST Council would be recommended states and center for this. You got it? So you will get a short note for this. You have to write 4-5 mark short note can come on this GST Council. So are you very thorough with this chapter? Very good. Next, let's do revision of chapter 2 or not? Quickly, 10 minutes. You have revised at home? Yes, ma'am. So quickly, we are doing marathon revision. Okay, right now marathon revision of chapter number 2, supply. What is supply? Taxable event under GST. Under GST, if a transaction is supply, GST will be levied. If a transaction is not supply, GST will not be levied. So supply is very crucial. How do we determine whether a transaction is supply or not? As per section 7. If a transaction is as supply as per 7.1, then it is supply. If it is not falling in 7.1, then it is not supply. Okay, so transaction is what? Supply as per section 7. That if it is defined in section 7. So what does it all say? We'll see. What does 7.1a say? 7.1a say supply means all form of supply made or agreed to be made, whether consideration should be there, and the second, it should be for the purpose of business. So supply includes all form of supply of goods or services such as sale, barter, exchange, transfer, lease, or license or disposal agreed to be made for a consideration and for the purpose of business. So for any transaction to be treated as supply, two things are important. One is consideration, second is for the purpose of business. If both the things are there, the transaction is supply as per 7.1a. If one is missing, it is not supply as per 7.1a. You got it? Then comes 7.1b. What does 7.1b said? Importation of service, whether or not for the course or furtherance of business. What does 7.1b said? Ki it should be import of service, whether or not for the purpose of business. Even if for business, even if not for business, it will be treated as supply. But for not for business, there is an exemption notification which will exempt if you are, taking the services for what? If you are importing services for personal use, then it is exempt. Okay. And here one section is not written, 7.1AA. What was 7.1AA? Who can tell me? Activities or transaction other than individual for cash deferred payment or valuable consideration by member to its constitute or vice versa. And these member and constitutes are treated as two separate person. So in exam, if any unincorporated corporated association is coming who is giving services to its member for cash deferred payment or valuable consideration, then it is to be treated as supply. And the members and the constitutes are to be treated as separate person. Okay, then comes 7.1c. What does 7.1c said? Activities specified in schedule 1 without consideration would also be treated as supply. Without consideration. So what was schedule 1? We'll see once. What was schedule 1? Permanent transfer or disposal of business asset where input tax credit is availed. Second, supply of goods or services between related person or distinct person. What? In the course or furtherance of business. So what we are studying? Schedule 1. That means even if without consideration it would be treated as supply. Then comes para 3 schedule 1. What? Supply of goods by principal to agent. Where agent undertakes to further supply. Okay. And on behalf of principal, and supply by agent to principal. Where agent undertakes to supply to purchase on behalf of the principal. You got it? And then last, import of services from a related person or establishment outside India. If you are importing services from what? Outside India. In that case what? In the course or furtherance of business, that would be treated as supply. So these are 4 activities that is to be treated as supply even if made without consideration. You got it? Very good. Then comes what? We'll see this. See, this is schedule 1. It is given in diagrammatic form. Permanent transfer or disposal of business asset where input tax credit has been taken. Para 1 schedule 1 without consideration it would be supply. Then supply between related person or distinct person, that would be treated as supply. But in case of employer-employee, if it does not exceed 50,000, it is not treated as supply. Then in case of principal to agent, it is treated as supply. What? The transaction between principal and agent would be treated as supply even if made without consideration. And the transaction between agent and principal, again where agent procures on behalf of principal, would be treated as supply. Now when he would be considered as agent? When the invoice is in the name of agent. What is the test? We have seen the clarification. When the invoice is in the name of agent, at that time only it would be treated as what? It would be treated as supply. Perfect. Okay. Then import of services. You are importing services from related person or establishment outside India in the course of furtherance of business. It would be treated as supply. Then comes section 7.1a. What does 7.1a say? Activities or transaction specified in schedule 2 to be treated as what? Supply of goods or supply of services. Schedule 2 we have seen. What does schedule 2 tells? Activities or transaction that is to be treated as supply of goods or supply of service. Who determines that? Schedule 2. So what does schedule 2 says? We will see. First, transfer of, you are transferring title and goods, that is supply of goods. Transferring title and goods under an agreement that property will pass at a future date, that is also supply of goods. Transfer of right in goods or undivided share in goods, that is what? Supply of services. Then land, regarding land and building, lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land, that is what? Supply of service. What is sale of land? Not a supply as per schedule 3. Very good. As per schedule 3, not a supply if it is what? Sale of land. But lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land, that is what? Supply of service. Very good. Then leasing, letting out of building. You are leasing out the building, letting out the building. Commercial complexes, that is supply of service. Very good. Then treatment or process. You are applying to someone other's product. Job work, supply of service, supply of service. Very good. Then transfer of business assets. You're transferring your business asset. That is, your business assets are transferred or disposed of by or under the direction of a person carrying on the business. So as no longer it will form part of business, it would be supply of goods. But if you are putting to private use, that is supply of service. Business asset putting to private use, supply of service. Then goods forming part of business, now the person ceases to be a taxable person, that are deemed to be supplied and that is be treated as supply of goods. The exception are going concern and personal representative taking on the business. Okay. Then I am renting my immovable property. I am renting out my immovable property. What is that? Supply of service. Immovable intellectual property, always service. We have seen the definition of service. Very good. Construction of building complex civil structure before completion certificate. Before completion certificate, supply of service. After completion certificate, not supply as per schedule 3, ma'am, not supply. Very good. Agreeing to obligation to refrain from an act or to do an act or to tolerate an act is supply of service. You remember it well? We have seen clarification also on this. Yes, very good. Development, design, programming, customization, adaptation, upgradation, enhancement, implementation of IT software. IT software I am developing. It is always supply of service. It is always supply of service. Transfer of right to use goods for any purpose. I am giving goods to her to use. Then it is supply of service. Very good. And there are two composite supplies like work contract. It is always supply of service. And the restaurant, always. Okay, so it is very essential to determine whether something is goods or service. Why? Because the time of supply provisions for service are different, for goods that are different. Is it clear? Perfect. Very good. Then there is something called as schedule 3. We came to schedule 3 from section 7 subsection 2. 7 subsection 2 said, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, activities specified in schedule 3 would be treated not as supply. So these are transactions that are treated neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Okay, the first one was service by an employee to employer in the course of or in relation to employment. What is important? It should be in the course of or in relation to employment. If it is in the course or relation of employment, it is not supply. Whatever services employee is given to employer. So the salaries are not liable to GST. Wages are not liable to GST. You got it? Perfect. Second, services. If the court or tribunal is providing services established under any law for the time being in force, it could be district court, it could be high court, it could be Supreme Court. If the court is giving services to you, what did they say? It is not supply. Then comes functions which are performed by member of panchayat, state legislature, then municipalities, other local authority. This is not supply. Then they said the one who is holding any post in pursuance of provision of the constitution, like President of India, Speaker of Lok Sabha, their services are not liable to GST. So all these functions performed by all these people are not liable to GST. To maintain the dignity, they have kept it. Okay. Then what did they said? Okay, you are chairperson, member or director, CMD of what? Of a body which is established by either central government or state government or local authority. And what did they said? Okay, this will not be supply. Then services of funeral burial including transportation of deceased is not supply. Okay, you got it? And so GST will not be levied. Then sale of land, sale of building, after completion certificate, ma'am, not supply. Okay, very good. Actionable claims other than specified actionable claim. So actionable claim, not supply. Specified actionable claim, supply of goods. Ma'am, it is in the definition of goods. Actionable claim comes in the definition of goods. Very good. So what are the specified actionable claims? 6. Lottery, betting, gambling, casino, horse racing, online money gaming. I repeat, lottery, betting, gambling, casino, horse racing, online money gaming. This is what? Specified actionable claim. This is what? Specified actionable claim. Is it liable to GST? Yes, it is liable to GST. What is the rate? 28%. It will be regarded as supply of goods. Are you clear on this? Very good. Then supply of goods from a place in a non-taxable territory to another place in non-taxable territory. That means without such goods entering into India. I am supplying goods from Canada to US. I am in Mumbai, but goods have not entered India. In that case, is this be supply? No, not supply. GST will not be leviable. Then supply of warehouse goods. Goods are kept in warehouse. Okay. And before clearance for home consumption, if I am supplying it to anyone, is this supply? No. Are you able to get it? Yes. And then last, supply of goods by consignee to any other person by transfer of document of titles or otherwise after the goods have dispatched from a port of origin outside India, but before clearance for home consumption. This span, is this be regarded as supply? No, ma'am. it will not be regarded as supply. All these transactions, neither supply of goods nor supply of service, GST will not be levied. It is also called as Schedule 3. It is also called as negative list. Got it? Okay, so we have done all with examples in detail. Okay, now we are doing marathon revision, so that's why we are not taking examples. Okay, you are getting it, but totally. Any doubts up till now? Very good, very intelligent. Now there is this is what we have seen. We have seen section 7. Okay, then 7 subsection 2 clause B also we have seen. What did it said? That is also not supply. What was that, you remember? Activity transaction. Very good. Activities or transaction undertaken by central government, state government, local authority in which they are engaged as public authority plus notified. So what they have notified? 2 things. 1, activities of panchayat under constitution and municipalities under constitution. Second, very good, grant of alcoholic liquor license by state government. Against license fees, application fees, whatever name it is called. It is also not supply. You got it? Very good. Then composite, then we have seen section 7 important points, all we have seen. Okay, you got it? Then section 8, taxability of composite and mixed supply. In which section composite supply is defined? Section 2. Taxability is given in section 8. It is defined. The definition of composite and mixed supply are given in section 2. Okay, so what does it say? What do you mean by composite supply? It means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient. 2 or more taxable supply. What did it say? 2 or more but taxable. Taxable supply should be there, which are naturally bundled in supplied in conjunction with each other. One of them is what? Principal supply. That would be treated as supply of what? Principal supply. Okay, that is the predominant element. Okay, so in that case section 8 said that it would be treated as supply of principal supply, and that means what? Rate of tax of principal supply would be levied. So in case of composite supply, for example laptop with a charger, the rate of laptop would be levied on charger as well. Why? Because the principal supply is laptop. Okay, that is the predominant element. Then comes the concept of mixed supply. Okay, in the case of mixed supply, there are 2 or more individual supply, not necessarily taxable. It could be one taxable supply, it could be one exempt, but 2 or more individual supply that are made in conjunction with each other for a single price. However, that is not a composite supply. It would be treated as mixed supply. In case of mixed supply, what does section 8 says? What is the taxability in case of mixed supply? In what would be the taxability in case of mixed supply? Highest rate would be levied. Okay, like that we have seen the chocolate and the Cadbury and all this combination, the cakes and the cold drink combination. If someone makes, what it would be called as? Mixed supply. Highest rate of tax would be levied in case of mixed supply. Do you remember this? Yes, very good. Now we have seen, this is what the important part we have seen. We will quickly see the clarifications what we have seen. 1 second. Now there is one clarification on DCA, you remember? Yes or no? Okay, I'll fatafat show the diagram to you. See, in case of agent, one clarification what we have done, ki agent will be considered as agent or not as per para 3 schedule 1 would be dependent on invoicing. If invoice is issued in the name of agent, he will be considered as agent. But invoice is issued in the name of principal, he will not be considered as agent. Perfect. Then what is there? Now there is a concept of DCA. One clarification on DCA also come, we have seen. Okay, so we'll quickly revise it with diagram only. So if what was the issue 2 there? If DCA is not agent, silent. If DCA is not agent, when he will not be agent? When he is not, the invoice is not issued in his name. So when DCA is not agent under para 3 schedule 1, then any interest if he is charging to the buyer, any interest, he is not the agent. Okay, so when he is charging any interest to the buyer, in that case that would be an independent supply. This supply would be independent supply because he is not agent. Supplier is directly supplying to the buyer. Okay, he is not agent. So in this case it is an independent supply, principal through principal basis, the loan which he has given, and this interest will not form part of value of supplier. It is an independent supply between the DCA and the recipient. However, if DCA is agent, for example, when he issues the invoice on his own, then it no longer retains the character of a separate supply. It is not a separate supply. Whatever the loan he is giving to the recipient, okay, how DCA is different from normal agent, he guarantees payment. He guarantees payment to the supplier, okay. Now, so if DCA is agent under para 3 schedule 1, in that case it is the loan which he is giving is not a separate supply and it will form part of value of supply of DCA. So for example, 1 lakh rupees he is charging for his supply, 1000 is interest. So in this case, what will they, 1 lakh 1000 would become his value of supply. Okay, interest will not be assessed separately. You got it? Very good, very intelligent. Next. So this DCA clarification we have seen. This also we have seen, grant of alcoholic liquor license, neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Okay. Then we have seen the levy of, for example, I am donating something to a charitable institute. Okay. And I have donated them 10 lakhs rupees and they have displayed my name in the building constructed. So whether that would be treated as the charity, this advertisement services? No, this display of name will not be treated as an advertisement service. This is not advertisement. This is a donation Yachna ma'am has made to a charitable organization. Okay, she is an individual donor. It has the character of gift or donation and it leads to no commercial gain. It is not advertisement. It is not advertisement. Individual donor is there. But if it is there at some company like Tata Steels, then in that case, yes, it would be treated as supply. Okay, it would be treated as advertisement and GST would be levied. Individual donor donating to charitable institute, it has the character of gift or donation and it has no purpose of advertisement. It will not be treated as advertisement. GST will not be levied in these cases. Now we have seen agreeing to obligation to refrain from an act. What do you mean by refrain from an act? You are getting something for not doing anything. Okay. Then to tolerate an act or situation, you are getting something to tolerating anything, or you are getting something to do something, to do an act. All these three limbs, these are treated as supply of service as per Schedule 2, ma'am, as per Schedule 2, okay. So now government has given taxability of different 7 things. Do you remember? First was liquidated damages. What did government said? It is mere flow of money, ma'am. It is mere flow of money. It is not consideration. Performance was the main essence of the contract. The contract was not entered for tolerating that he has not performed the, so it is mere flow of money and it will not be treated as supply. It will not be treated as consideration and not supply. Okay. So in these 3 cases, what 2 things government has said ki we need to test. One is there must exist a agreement. Okay. In all the 3 things, what all 3 things? Agreeing to refrain from an act, obligation to do an act, or to tolerate an act. In all these 3 things, government said, ma'am, let's test 2 things. What? The first is where there must agreement and contract must exist. The second thing what government has said, consideration must flow. So we have to test whether these 2 things are there or not. If yes, then it is supply. If no, then it is not supply. You got it? So first, liquidated damages. What did the government said for liquidated damages? Ma'am, performance being the essence of the contract. He has not, in that case we said it is not consideration, not supply. This is what we have to remember. Details we are not getting into. 2 days before only we have studied fully. Okay. Then check, dishonor, fine or penalty. What did government said? It is not consideration, not service, not taxable. You remember it well? Very good. Then penalty imposed for violation of law. Like for example, today you were coming for the celebration, you were getting late. So you violated what? Traffic rules. Okay. In that case, your penalty has been imposed. They got late by 1 hour. So in that case, okay, they were what? Discussing with traffic signal person there. Okay. So in that case, he has imposed 500 rupees penalty to them. So is that consideration? No, ma'am, not consideration, not liable to GST. So they were fighting, we will not pay GST. They have not paid GST as well. Okay. Then forfeiture of salary or payment of bond amount. If the employee is going before the minimum period, if the employee is going, then he has to pay the bond amount. So that amount are either ways not taxable. We have studied in Schedule 3 as well. Here also government has said it is not taxable. then late payment surcharge or fees. So that are common business practices that are composite supply and will be treated as principal supply. Okay, and then fixed charges for power, electricity duty. Exempt from GST, ma'am, exempt from GST. So either fixed charges or variable charges not leviable to GST. And then last, cancellation charges. It will be levied same as principal supply. You got it? Very good, very good. Now let's move ahead. And now one more clarification. This we have seen, supply of food and beverages at restaurant services will be treated as restaurant services. For example, you would be going to PVR, for example. So in this case, if you are purchasing the the food and beverages separately, then it would be treated as restaurant service. But if it is bundled with the cinema ticket, then it would be treated as what? Composite supply, and it would be treated at the rate of cinema ticket only. You got this? And mere holding of shares by a holding company in a subsidiary company will not be treated as supply. It is transaction in security only. Is it clear? Perfectly clear? Okay. So in 20 minutes only we have revised the chapter supply. Okay, in the exam day you have that much time only. Okay, so you need to do like this and then jump to important questions. Got it? Now chapter number 3. In case of states of India, which tax would be levied? In case of state of India, Tamil Nadu to Tamil Nadu supply. CGST plus SGST. Tamil Nadu to Maharashtra. IGST. Very good. Then 3 union territories, DJP. Yeah. Delhi, Jammu Kashmir and Pondicherry. Delhi to Delhi. CGST, SGST, not UTGST. Pondicherry to Pondicherry. CGST, SGST, not UTGST. And Jammu Kashmir to Pondicherry. IGST. Jammu Kashmir to Maharashtra. IGST. Then all dash DC union territories. Then all dash DC. CGST plus UTGST. And then Andaman Nicobar to Lakshadweep. IGST. Andaman Nicobar to Mumbai. Very good. Then we have studied 2 sections. Okay, here it is given like section 9 of CGST Act regarding what? Levy of CGST, and section 5 of IGST Act regarding levy of IGST. There are only few differences in this section. So in the summary book I have made it like a chart. Okay, only the differences would be highlighted. So quickly, section 9 of CGST Act, it is with regard to what? Intrastate supply. CGST would be levied. What does section 9 said? CGST would be levied in case of intrastate supply of goods and services. Correct. What does section 5 says? In case of intrastate supply of goods or services, IGST would be levied. Okay, it is collected by taxable person. What is outside it? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption in both the cases, 9 as well as 5. Then rate as may be notified by the government on recommendation of council, not exceeding 20% is written in for CGST, not exceeding 40% is written in case of IGST. Then these are the supply PHMNA. PHMNA, what means that? Petroleum, crude, high speed, diesel, motor, spirit, aviation, turbine fuel and the natural gas. These items would be what? GST would be levied from a notified date. It is written in both the sections, section 9 as well as section 5. And then tax 9 subsection 2 it was. Okay, right? You remember it was 9 subsection 2. Then what does 9 subsection 3 says? It says in case of specified goods or services, tax will be chargeable on reverse charge basis. Tax would be chargeable on what? Reverse charge basis. And who would be paying the tax? Recipient would be paying the tax. Both 9.3 also says, 9.53 also says. 9.3 says in case of intrastate, 5.3 says in case of interstate. Then comes 9.4. Then comes 9.4 or 5.4. What does it says? In case of interstate. In case of interstate, if you are purchasing from an unregistered person, you are a class of registered person, you are purchasing specified goods and services, then in that case who would be paying the tax? Who would be paying the tax? Class of registered person. Please concentrate here, not there. Okay, even if they are looking very good, they took so much time, but please concentrate here. So 9.4, what did 9.4 says? What did 9.4 says? You are purchasing from a non-registered person. You are class of registered person, and there are specified goods and services. So who would be paying the tax? Class of registered person. 9.4 or 5.4. Then here 9.5 or 5.5. What does 9.5 or 9.55 says? E-com operator. So what does it say? Government may notify category of services, not goods. Under 9.5, government can notify category of services, tax on which will be paid by ECO if such services are supplied through it. So if ECO is in taxable territory, who will pay tax? ECO. If ECO is not in taxable territory, who will pay tax? The representative. If ECO is also not there, the representative is not there. Appoint one boss. Okay, got it? Yes. In case of imports, which tax is levied always? IGST in case, okay. So few items are treated as interstate, as we have seen. In imports treated as interstate, always import exports. Then we have seen supplied to SEZ or by SEZ, that will always be treated as interstate. And whenever the supplier is in India and place of supply is outside India, that is always treated as interstate. In these transactions, always IGST will be levied. And the transactions which are not interstate and not falling in the definition of interstate, then they will be treated as interstate. In interstate, IGST would be levied, always levied by center government, and it is a portion between center government and the consuming or destination based state. Are you very clear on this? Okay, now tell me, who is an ECO? Any person who owns, operates or manages. Any person who owns, operates or manages what digital or electronic facility or platform for electric commerce is treated as ECO. Okay. Now after that, what comes? Following category of services supplied through ECO are notified for this purpose. You remember, there are some services which are notified under 9.5. If supplied through ECO, ECO would be paying the tax. Correct? First is transportation of passenger, Ola Uber example. So if who is the service provider? The driver, but he is providing services through Ola Uber. So who would be discharging the tax? Ola Uber would be discharging the tax. So service of transportation of passenger by radio, taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle or any other motor vehicle, who would be paying the tax? ECO would be paying the tax, correct? ECO would be paying the tax. But okay, other than omnibus, for omnibus there is a separate entry. Again, transportation of passenger by omnibus, except where the person supplying the service through ECO is a company. So if the omnibus, the person who is providing service of omnibus is a company, then he will discharge. If he is not company, ECO will discharge. Is it clear? Very good. Then service of accommodation. What accommodation? For residential and lodging purpose, not commercial purpose. Okay. When ECO will discharge? When it is for residential or lodging purpose. It could be in hotel, guest house, composite, whatever name it is called. Except registered person. If registered person is there, he will discharge. If registered person is not there, then ECO will discharge. Then service of housekeeping, such as plumbing, carpentering, who will pay the tax? ECO. However, if the tax is discharged by a registered person, then registered person. And then the restaurant service that we are going to order, Zomato, Swiggy, ECO, Zomato, Swiggy would be paying the tax, except if the services are provided by the restaurant situated at specified premises. Who will tell me what is a specified premises? The declared tariff of any unit of accommodation is above 7,500 per unit per day. Very good. And now this is the important part of chapter number 3A. 3B you want me to revise in 10 minutes? Quickly 10 minutes we'll revise 3B. Okay, 3B, 3C will revise 10 minutes, not more than that. Okay. So in 1 hour only we would be revising 5 chapters. Okay, this is a marathon. This is called as marathon revision. We will try before your exam one day we would be doing this online. Okay, so in 4-5 hours you would be able to do full subject. Okay. Now reverse charge mechanism. Come on. See, we have studied it. We are studying it again so that we can remember. Please concentrate. Okay, in case of reverse charge, what happens? Who pays the tax? Recipient pays the tax. In case of forward charge, who pays the tax? Supplier. So generally it is normal charge or forward charge. Except 9394 cases it is reverse charge. Specified goods and specified services. First of all we are going to see the GTA chart. What happens in case of GTA service? Is it under reverse charge? Yes? We'll see in which case it is. First, if the recipient, you tell me. So this is the combination of exemption plus reverse charged provisions. Okay, this diagram is combination of both. In module you will get one at one chapter, one at one chapter. We have combined this diagram of exemption and RCM. So here, if the recipient is central government, state government, union territory, local authority who has taken registration for TDS deduction, GST is exempt. Very good. If the recipient is other than 7 specified category of person like individual, GST is exempt. But if the recipient is 7 specified category of person, what are 7 specified category of person? Factory, society, cooperative society, person registered under GST Act, body, corporate, partnership, firm, casual taxable person located in taxable territory. So if it is out of these 7 category of person, then GST is chargeable. How the GST would be chargeable? Like supplier has the choice. GTA service supplier has the choice. What choice he has? He can take the registration and he can pay under forward charge. Now there are 2 rates. 5% if no ITC of inputs, input services and capital goods, and 12% with ITC of inputs in capital goods and input services. However, if GTA does not exercise the option, he does not take the registration, or he does not exercise the option to pay under forward charge, in that case reverse charge would be applicable, and applicable rate of GST would be 5%. You got it totally? Very good. In case of individual advocate or what senior advocate or firm of advocate, we have seen ki whether if they are giving services to a business entity located in taxable territory and business entity's turnover is above threshold limit, then in that case what? It would be chargeable under RCM. Otherwise we have seen it is exempt. You got it? Next service that we have seen is a sponsorship service, arbitral tribunal service. If arbitral tribunal is giving legal services to business entity located, the first diagram, okay. Arbitral tribunal is giving services to business entity located in taxable territory. Business entity located in taxable territory would be paying tax under RCM. You got it? Then we have seen sponsorship service. 3 things we have to remember in RCM entries. What is the service? Who is the supplier? Who is the recipient? If it falls, it is under RCM, otherwise not. Okay, then sponsorship services. To who is the supplier? Any person. Who is the recipient? Either body corporate or partnership firm located in taxable territory. LLP is also regarded as partnership firm, okay, for reverse charge purpose. It is given in the explanation to notification of reverse charge, okay. So in the exam, if LLP question comes, you have to also treat it as a partnership firm and give the answer accordingly, okay. Then services supplied by central government, state government, union territory, local authority to any business entity located in taxable territory. Business entity is required to pay the tax. Government services, except what did they said? Services by Department of Post and Ministry of Railways. Services of transportation of what? Goods or passenger, and services in relation to aircraft or vessel inside or outside the presence of the port or airport. What did they say? If they are being provided, then it will be under forward charge. This is out of reverse charge entry. They said it is not, reverse charge entry is not applicable to them. That means forward charge. These services are under forward charge even if government is providing. Other than this, whatever services government is providing to business entity, reverse charge would be applicable. Is it clear? Very good. Then services by central government, state government, union territory, local authority of what? Renting of immovable property. And who is the recipient? Any person registered under GST. So who would be paying the tax? Any person registered under GST. You got it clearly? Very good. Then renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. What happened? Renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. Who is giving the service? Any person. Who is the recipient? Any registered person. So the registered person would be paying tax under RCM. Then director of a company. Director of a company or body corporate, we have seen. Who is the supplier of service? Director. Who is the recipient? Company or body corporate. Who would be paying the tax? company or body corporate. So in this we have seen if you are an independent director and you are not the employee of the company. See, if you are independent director and you are not the employee, then it is outside schedule 3. If it is outside schedule 3, it is taxable. If it is taxable, then RCM, and who would be paying the tax? Company or body corporate. Now the second thing, if you are the may or may not be employee, that is also possible. You are may or may not be the employee. Then what you have to see, what you have done in books of account and how you have deducted TDS. So in books of account, if you have shown it as salary and deduct TDS under section 192, then in that case what will happen? Why? It is shed by schedule 3, ma'am. So not taxable, GST will not be leviable. But if you are deducting TDS under section 194J as professional services, then TDS would be deducted as professional services. It is outside schedule 3. It would be taxable in under RCM in the hands of company, and company would be paying the GST on this. And one more clarification has come which has said that if the director is giving some services in personal capacity such as renting of immovable property, it will not be chargeable to GST. Sorry, it will not be under RCM. You got it? Only the services which he is giving in the capacity of director will be under RCM. Then insurance agent giving services to a person carrying on insurance business, who would be paying the tax? The company, the insurance company would be paying the tax. Then a recovery agent providing services to a banking company, financial institute or NBFC. What did they said? What did they said? The banking company, financial institute or NBFC would be discharging the tax under RCM. Then a music composer, photographer, he has given the services to music company or the producer. Arjit Singh example we have seen. So in that case, who would be paying the tax? Music composer, producer. Then author to a publisher, if he is giving the services, so in that case, who would be paying the tax? Of which service? Original literary work. So in that case, who would be discharging the tax? The publisher. Publisher located in taxable territory would be discharging a tax. Now the thing, one more option is there in case of author. If author wants, he can also discharge under forward charge. For that, he has to do the declaration. He cannot withdraw from that option from 1 year from the date of exercising the option, and it should be declared in his invoice. You got it? So in case of author, both the options are available. Now members of overseeing committee giving services to RBI, who would be discharging the tax? RBI under reverse charge. Now individual DSA, I repeat, individual DSA other than body corporate, partnership firm or LLP. Okay, so if in the exam individual DSA only comes, then only it is under RCM. Body corporate, partnership firm, LLP not under RCM. So what would be applicable? Forward charge will be applicable in that case. So individual DSA giving services to a banking company located in NBFC, who would be discharging the tax? Banking company located in or located in taxable territory. Okay, then business facilitator giving services to the banking company would be discharging. Agent of business correspondent giving services to business correspondent would be charging the tax to under the reverse charge. Okay, then security service, we have seen only one thing come under security service, only one thing come under reverse charge. What? Any person other than body corporate is the supplier. Recipient is registered person other than composite and other than government who has taken registration for TDS purpose. Then it will be under reverse charge. Otherwise, it will be under forward charge. Okay. Then there comes renting of the motor vehicle designed to carry passenger. In this case, when it is 12%, it is always under forward charge. If it is under 5%, then only one case under reverse charge. What? Supplier is other than body corporate, recipient is other than body corporate, then only reverse charge is there. Otherwise, forward charge. Very clear? Very good. Lending of security. Who is the person? Supplier of service? Lender. Who is the recipient? Borrower. They are lending the security and the security lending scheme of SEBI. So in that case, what did they said? It would be under reverse charge. We are studying the chapter of reverse charge, not forward charge. Okay, very good. And then last one, IGST purpose. So above this, whatever entries we have studied are for interstate as well as intrastate, that is IGST purpose as well as CGST, SGST purpose. Okay, in exam they have asked the question once ki whether the RCM is applicable for interstate or not. So it is applicable for both interstate as well as intrastate. And there is one additional entry in case of IGST. What is that entry? The supplier of service is what? Any person located in non-taxable territory. Recipient is any person other than NTOR. So any person NTOR would be discharging the tax liability. Okay. So this is what reverse charge we have done. And composition, let's revise in 10 minutes. Okay. So what is that so what all sections we have seen up till now? Revise quickly. Section 7. Section 7, supply. Section 8, composite and mixed supply. Section 9, levy of CGST. Levy of CGST. These are the section of CGST Act 2017. And then we have seen section 5 of IGST Act 2017, which is levy of IGST. Is it clear? Very good. Now section 10, what is that? Composition scheme. Okay. So not even 1 hour has started. When we have started, we have completed how many chapters? 3 chapters revision we have done in 1 hour just. Okay. So this is the speed you have to keep in exam. If you are able to do on your own, please do. Otherwise, we will connect. Okay. Now, 3C. So this is how you should also remember. Okay. GST. You have exam. I am already a CA. Okay. So you have to study like this. Now, 3C is what? Composition scheme. What does composition scheme is all about? Very good. For a small taxpayer, a simplified tax scheme has come. So we will see 3 definition. What do you mean by taxable supply? The goods or services leviable to tax. What do you mean by exempt supply? 3 things come in case of exempt supply: nil rated supply, wholly exempt supply, and non-taxable supply. So non-taxable supply is under exempt supply by way of definition of exempt supply. So whenever you are doing the calculation of aggregate turnover or turnover in the state or union territory and non-taxable supply is given, so you have to include it. Got it? Perfect. Very good. Then non-taxable supply means that is not leviable to tax, like PHMNA items, alcohol and all those that are non-taxable supply. Okay. That are not leviable to tax. Got it? Petroleum, high-speed diesel and all those. Now what do you mean by aggregate turnover? It includes all taxable supply, exempt supply, exports, interstate supply of a person having same pair. It is to be computed on all India basis. However, it excludes CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, compensation cess and value of inward supply on which tax is payable under RCM. So in short, it excludes GST and inward supply under RCM. Okay, 2 things it excludes. Okay, then we have seen the definition of turnover in the state or union territory. Okay, for composition scheme, why is aggregate turnover important? To decide eligibility. Okay, preceding year turnover is to be seen to see whether you can get into composition scheme or in the current year or not. So aggregate turnover is seen for that. Why is turnover in the state or union territory important? Because tax is calculated on turnover in the state or union territory. Got it? So what do you mean by turnover in the state or union territory? What it includes? All taxable supply, excluding inward supply under RCM, then all exempt supply, exports, interstate supply of goods or services from the state or union territory, but excludes what? CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST. So aggregate turnover in the state or union territory also have taxable supply, exempt supply, exports, interstate supply of a person, of goods or services made from a state or union territory, but excludes GST. Got it? Now eligibility. What is the limit for this composition scheme? 1.5 CR in all the states. Okay, 1.5 CR of preceding financial year. So if aggregate turnover in all the states are in the preceding financial year is 1.5 CR. Okay, so in this year you can take composition scheme except special category states. There are 8 special category states for which the limit is 75 lakhs in the preceding financial year. What are those special category states? Man-UTS was the memory technique. So what is Man-UTS? Meghalaya, Mizoram, Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, then Nagaland, Tripura, Sikkim and Uttarakhand. So in these 8 states the limit is 75 lakhs. In case of Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir and Assam, the limit is still 1.5 CR. What is the rate? In case of manufacturer, total rate 1% of turnover in the state or union territory, that is 0.5 CGST, 0.5 SGST. In case of supplier of food, the rate is 5% of turnover in the state or union territory, and in case of traders, that is any other supplier they have written, so 1% of turnover of taxable supply of goods or service in the union territory. So if you are any of these, you can supply services. The limit is given any other straightforward service supplier is not allowed composition scheme. Pure service supplier is not allowed composition scheme under 10(1). However, if you are a manufacturer or you are a restaurant service provider or you are a trader, yes, you can supply the service of a value not exceeding 10% of the turnover in the state or union territory in the preceding financial year, or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. You got it? So if you are a manufacturer, restaurant provider or trader, you can very well supply service if you want composition scheme under 10(1) also, but the supply of service should not exceed 10% of turnover in the state or union territory of preceding financial year, or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. And this turnover in the state or union territory will not include interest income, interest on loan, deposit, advances. You remember it was given there. Then comes 10(2). What does 10(2) says? 10(2) gives what? Conditions for composition scheme under 10(1). So what first is the first condition? You should not be engaged in supply of service except what is given in proviso to 10(1). That means 10% of turnover in union, state or union territory of 5 lakh. This much you can provide, otherwise not. You got it? Very good. And you should not be engaged in non-taxable goods or services. PHMNA, you should not be engaged in non-taxable goods or services. If you are engaged in non-taxable goods or services, composition scheme will not be available to you. Then you should not be engaged in interstate outward supply of goods. Outward supply. Inward you can very well do. That is not a problem. Outward you cannot do. Then you should not supply services through ECO who is liable to collect tax at source under section 42. So what you should not do? You should not supply services through ECO. You should not supply services. Goods very well you can do. Not an issue. Services you cannot do. And you should not be manufacturer of such goods as may be notified. What are those goods notified? Ice cream and other edible ice, whether or not containing coca, pan masala, tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes, aerated water, fly ash brick, fly ash aggregate, fly ash content, bricks of fossil meals or similar siliceous earth, building bricks and earthing and roofing tiles. You should not be manufacturer of this. You can be trader, that is not a problem. If you are trader of this, composition scheme is available. But if you are manufacturer of this, no, composition scheme is not available. Then you should not be casual taxable person, nor you should be non-resident taxable person. Okay, so for these people, composition scheme is not available. Only if you are fulfilling condition of 10(2), you are eligible for composition scheme under 10(1). Then comes 10(2)(a) for pure service provider. Okay, what did it said? For or the one to whom the composition scheme under 10(1), 10(2) is not available, they can come and take very well benefit of 10(2)(a). What does 10(2)(a) says? It says if you are a registered person and your aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year did not exceed 50 lakhs. Your aggregate turnover did not exceed 50 lakhs, okay, then you can pay tax under composition scheme of 10(2)(a). What is the rate? 3% CGST, 3% SGST of turnover in the state or union territory. Okay, of turnover in the state or union territory, not taxable supply. Now, here for whom this scheme is available? Predominant service provider and those who are not eligible for 10(1) and 10(2), maybe because they have provided service in excess of the proviso mentioned, that proviso 10% of turnover in the state or union territory or 5 lakhs. Then you come here and take the benefit if your aggregate turnover is not more than 50 lakhs in the preceding financial year. Then you come here and take the benefit. What are the conditions for 10(2)(a)? Same conditions, except one. What difference? Here service provider restriction is not there. Why that is not there? Because this scheme is for service provider. Rest all conditions are same. Okay. And then other few important points we'll see. After your aggregate turnover crosses the limit of 1.5 crore or 75 lakhs or 50 lakhs, the scheme will be lapsed. The scheme will get lapsed. Okay, and if you are a registered person providing under composition scheme, you have opted for composition scheme, you should not collect tax from recipient. Whatever sale you are doing, you should not collect tax and you should not take input tax credit also. Most important point. Now officer has reason to believe that composition scheme was not available to you. Then also you have taken composition scheme. What they will do? They would be charging tax as well as penalty to you. They would be charging tax as well as penalty to you, and the provision of section 73, 74 would be applicable. Now there are two explanations. You remember two explanation. First explanation was talking about aggregate turnover, what it includes and what it does not include. So what aggregate turnover will include? The turnover from 1st April till that date you are getting liable for registration, aggregate turnover will include. However, what it will not include, the calculation of aggregate turnover for the purpose of composition scheme will not include interest on loan, deposit or advances, which is actually exempt. Okay, if the adjustment is given for interest on loan, deposit and advances, please don't include it in aggregate turnover. And turnover in the state or union territory, it will not include turnover from 1st April till the date you get liable for registration, and it should also not include interest on loan, deposit and advances. Is it clear? Very good. So here we complete what? Composition scheme. Okay, here we complete. And one more point, important procedural part. If you are taking a new registration, then in the registration form only in the part B, you will intimate that you are opting for composition scheme, and that intimation will only be okay, and that you can do anytime whenever you are taking registration, even in the mid of the year. But if you are a new already registered person, in that case what will happen? From the beginning commencement of the current financial year, you will take for the you can offer the composition scheme. So is it clear? Very good. Let's revise place of supply also in 10 minutes. Then we are left with few questions of place of supply. Okay, in 10 minutes we would be doing place of supply. Chapter number 4, place of supply. 10 minutes, just concentrate for 10 minutes, then today we would be having a lot of fun. Place of supply. Why is place of supply relevant? To charge CGST or IGST, how do we know if the location of supplier and place of supply are in same state, same union territory, or what? Same state or union territory, then it is intra-state. If it is in two different state, two different union territory, one different state or one union territory, then it is interstate. Settle down. Everyone settle down. Then it is interstate. Okay, and the tax that would be levied is IGST. So to levy CGST or IGST is dependent upon what? Place of supply. So location of supplier and place of supply is very important. So this chapter is of place of supply. The sections which are given here will tell you place of supply. You have to plot it with location of supplier, and then you will know CGST, SGST to levy or IGST. Got it? So first of all, in this chapter, whatever sections we are studying are of IGST Act 2017. Got it? So section 10, first most important, section 10 of IGST Act 2017. What it talks about? Place of supply of goods. Other than import and export, but place of supply of goods. Okay. Section 12 talks about services. Here we are talking about goods. What is the definition of goods? Goods means any kind of movable property other than money and securities, but including actionable claims. Okay. And what is the definition of services? Anything other than goods, money and securities. Okay. But includes what? Activities relating to use of money for which separate consideration is charged, or facilitating arranging transaction in security. Okay. So we know very well immovable property is service. Always immovable property is service. Okay, you should clearly know what is goods, what is service. So here for goods, that section is section 10, place of supply of goods. You got it? Very good. So 10(1)(a), what does 10(1)(a) say? It involves movement of goods by the supplier or the recipient or any other person. What would be the place of supply? Location of goods at the time when the movement of goods terminates for delivery. Movement of goods terminates for delivery would be place of supply. Plot it with location of supplier and find out which tax to be levied. Then comes 10(1)(b), bill to ship to scenario, where the goods are delivered to the recipient or any person on the direction of third person, that is called as bill to ship to scenario. So what would be the place of supply? Principal place of business of third person. So in this, for example, what A has sold goods to B. B has sold, please don't send it to my place, you do place, send it to C's place. So bill to B, ship to C. Okay, who would be taking ITC in this case? B. The tax that would be levied would be dependent upon B's location. What would be the place of supply? The location of B would be the place of supply. So if A is in Maharashtra, B is in Gujarat, the tax levied would be IGST and B would be taking credit of IGST. Now B is where? Gujarat. C is also, for example, is in Gujarat. So that there would be second transaction between B to C, for which the tax that would be levied would be CGST, SGST. You are getting it? We have seen many examples for it. Okay, yesterday only. Now when there is no movement of goods, there is no movement of goods by the supplier or the recipient, as such basis, furniture, as such, I said ki you take it. That case, what would be the place of supply? Location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. What location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient would be the place of supply. Wherever the goods are, that would become the place of supply. Then purchase, what is 10(1) CA? Oh, unregistered, to the unregistered person if I am providing the goods. So place of supply of goods over the counter in one state and transported to other state. Where supply of goods is made to person other than registered person, that is means supply to unregistered person. The place of supply is location as per the address of the person recorded in invoice. If the address is not there, then location of supplier. You got it? Okay. Then when the goods are assembled or installed at site, what is the place of supply? Place where the goods are assembled or installed. And then where the goods are supplied on board, like conveyance, vessel, aircraft, train, all these things, in this case place of supply, where the goods are taken on board a conveyance. We have taken example of charger. If I have purchased the charger during my Chennai-Mumbai flight, what is the place of supply? Chennai, where the goods are taken on board. Very good. Then we have seen which chapter, sorry, which section? Section 12 of IGST Act kya? It talks about what? Place of supply of services, ma'am. Where the location of supplier and location of recipient is in India. When both are in India, then services place of supply is fixed by section 12. What is the memory technique of section 12? T3OIBP cases. In case of T3OIBP cases, what did they say? If it is supplied to a registered person, place of supply is location of such registered person. So T3OIBP cases, we'll see the full form of T3OIBP. So if it is providing to registered person, place of supply would be location of such registered person. You are getting it totally? Very good. Now we'll see what is the default rule. First of all, you tell me. What is the default rule? If you are providing B2B, means registered person, location of such registered person would be place of supply. 12(2) we are talking about. But if you is B2C, that means if you are providing it to unregistered person. So if you have the address, then LOR. If you don't have the address, LOS. LOS means location of recipient. LOR means location of recipient. LOS means location of supplier. So now I would be saying LOR, LOS only. Okay. Now, immovable property related services, you have seen kya? Immovable property related service. What did it said? What would be the place of supply? Location at which immovable property, boat, vessel is located or intended to be located would be the place of supply. However, if the boat, vessel or immovable property is located outside India, in that case place of supply would be LOR, location of recipient. If it is in many states, in that case what did they say? It is as per agreement. So if consolidated amount is charged and if the immovable property, the supply is in multiple states are involved, in that case what would be the place of supply? As per contract or agreement, the place of supply would be determined. But in absence of contract, we have to go to the rules. Okay, we'll go to rule 4. So what did rule 4 said? You remember or not remember? Not remember? Rule 4, they said कि if it is lodging accommodation services, then number of night stayed in such property. number of nights stayed in such property. If it is what? Lodging accommodation other than 2 or more contiguous estate. If it is 2 or more contiguous estate or any other service in relation to immovable property, area of the immovable property. However, if it is regarding boat or vessel, time spent in such boat or vessel would be what? The place of supply. Okay, so it was 12.3 along with the rule. Got it? Now we come to next PHBFR, phone buffering. Phone buffering cases we have seen. What was that? 12.4. What is that? Personal grooming, health services, beauty treatment, fitness and restaurant service. These 5. The memory technique is phone buffering, PHBFR. So in this case, place of supply would be location at which such services are performed will be the place of supply. Then training and performance services. Training and performance services. I have told you I am giving training to chartered accountants. They are registered. Place of supply would be location of registered person. But if I am giving training to the students, place of supply would be they are unregistered. Where the services are actually performed would be what? Place of supply. Then organization of event. Many questions in the exam. Institute favorite. Organization of event. What did they said? Give organization of event including ancillary service and assigning in sponsorship to the event. If it is to a registered person, if it is to the registered person, location of registered person. If it is to unregistered person, where the event is actually held. If the event is held outside India, then the location of recipient. You got it? Very good. If the event is held in more than one state, then each state in the proportion to the value they have said, okay, as per agreement contract it would be done. In case absence of agreement contract, they said generally accepted accounting principles. In the rule they have said in rule 5, okay. Then transportation of goods including mail courier. If it is to the register, if it is T3, the initials are there, transportation of goods T3. Okay, so if it is to registered person, location of such registered person. If it is to unregistered person, where the goods are handed over for transportation. But if the goods are destined outside India, then that case place of supply would be destination outside India. Got it totally? Very good. Then passenger transportation services, again one more T. You can see this T. I have made it in a different color and a bigger font. Okay, so T3OI BP cases, this is one more T. So passenger transport, so again T3OI BP cases, registered person, location of such person. Unregistered person, where the passenger embarks on a conveyance from where is his starting point. Okay, so embarks on a conveyance for a continuous journey would become the place of supply. Then service on board a conveyance. On board a conveyance, the services are given. In that case, what did they say? First schedule point of departure of conveyance would be the place of supply. First schedule point of departure. Okay, so would be the what? Supply. Would become the place of supply. Then B, T3OI BP cases, B, banking. Banking and other financial including a stock broking. So what is the location of recipient would be the, if they have the address, then it will become location of recipient. But if they don't have the address, then in that case, location of supplier. Then insurance agent, insurance services, T3OI, T3OI. Okay, so I, insurance services. So if it is provided to registered person, then location of such person. If it is provided to other persons, then also location of recipient. Why? Because in insurance service, as I have told you, always they will be having your what? Address. Then advertisement to government. If it is in many states, then each of the states as per the contract. If not, then there were different things we have seen, newspaper and all those things, correct? Then telecommunication services that we have seen. You remember, if you have a fixed line, lease circuit, what would be? Location of such installation. Then if you have postpaid mobile connection or internet services, in that case, if in case of billing address, obviously it would be available, so it would be location of billing address. But if in case billing address is not available, then location of supplier. In case of prepaid mobile internet, you have to see from where you are getting it. You are getting it through a selling agent, then location of that agent will be the place of supply. But if you are getting it from somewhere else, for example grocery shop, then where the payment is received would be the place of supply. Okay, and when the payment is made through electronic mode, then in that case what did they say? Location of recipient would be the place of supply in this case. Okay, and if lease circuit is installed in more than one states, then what did they say? In the as per the contract. But if there is no contract, then they give the rules what they said, number of points lying in the each state. So if there are 2 points, then 2, but if intermediate states are also there, that will also be considered only if intermediate states are getting its benefit. So if the lease circuit is installed from Delhi to Mumbai, only 2 points, so place of supply would be Delhi and Mumbai 1:1 ratio, the value would be divided. But if it is, we have seen the second example, if it is Chennai, Bangalore and Mysore, okay, so 3 points are there starting from Chennai till Mysore, and intermediate point is Bangalore also. So place of supply would be 1 Chennai, Tamil Nadu and 2 in Karnataka. So 1:2 ratio, the value would be divided. Why 2 in Karnataka? Because Bangalore and Mysore are also in Karnataka. You got it totally? Very good. Very good. So this is all what we have seen in this chapter, and then we have seen rule 3, that is not so important as I have told you. Okay. So here we complete also what? Which chapter? Place of supply. Okay. And one more section also we have seen in place of supply. What was that? What was that? Section 9, supply and territorial water. If the location of supplier is in territorial water, then it would be deemed to be nearest baseline. If the place of supply is in territorial water, then it would be deemed to be nearest baseline. Okay. So this is what section 9 of IGST Act. So what all sections we have seen of IGST Act? Section 5 of IGST Act, levy of IGST, section 9 of IGST Act, supply and territorial water, section 10 of IGST Act regarding place of supply of goods other than import and export, section 12 of IGST Act, place of supply of services is given in section 12. When LOR, LOS is in India. Okay, this much section of IGST Act. And what all section of CGST Act? Section 7 of CGST Act, supply. Section 8, composite and mixed supply. Section 9, levy of CGST. Section 10, composition scheme. Very good. So we complete 4 chapters revision in 1 hour 10 minutes. Thank you. Break. Okay, we'll take a short break of 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you.